a little late, but here I am with the analysis of the Celtics 76ers series. Before this first round, the 76ers haven't won a single playoff series against the Celtics since 1982. Boston was 32-0 in the series when leading 3-1, and Philadelphia was 0-18 in the series where they were down 3-1. My prediction was an easy sweep for the Celtics, and yes, the Philadelphia 76ers advanced to the second round to face the New York Knicks. So, if you don't want to hear any other wrong prediction, don't check the video description for extra basketball content, don't subscribe as a premium member of this channel, don't interact with this video, and don't watch this breakdown. But if you're brave enough, this is the series analysis. So let's start from what is generally known. The Celtics are heavily dependent on their three-point percentages. With similar shot volumes, they made 42% of their three-point shots in their wins and only 28% in their losses. Derek White in particular wasn't efficient at all. He finished his playoffs with 11 points per game, 32% in field goals and 27% in threes. But the Celtics fanbase is divided into two big categories based on their opinions on the Celtics team system. There are people supporting Joe Mazzulla and people who thinks that Mazzulla should be fired after this playoff elimination. He always had some top-level regular seasons. His system worked perfectly in the first 82 games, but the results in the playoffs weren't exceptional. He won a title against a not-so-tough competition, in my opinion. But in the other 3 years, he was eliminated by the 8th seed Miami Heat. He was eliminated by the New York Knicks that went out of the playoffs in the next round, and then by the 7th seed 76ers. So some people see his winning percentage in the regular season and think that he is an elite coach, while others think that Brad Stevens is the mastermind behind the Celtics' success, and Joe Mazzulla is just an average or maybe even a bad coach. And the truth is probably between these two opposite sides. In my opinion, Mazzulla is not a phenomenal coach, but there are coaches that are worse than him, and I particularly appreciate the fact that he's brave enough to try something different from all the other coaches. For example, he was heavily criticized for his Game 7 lineup that saw Harper Jr., Shireman and Garza starting, and this lineup didn't work at all, but there were clear ideas behind this choice, and he's brave enough to take some risks to find the correct game plan to utilize in his games. Sometimes it works and you're considered a genius, but sometimes it doesn't, and everybody consider you a fool. But it's important to not judge when you can look at the result. Things must be judged beforehand, and I stand with the people who are brave enough to take risks, to execute their ideas. I can say the same thing for the box and one tried against Joel Embiid with Jaylen Brown assigned on him. It's a crazy idea, but there are still reasons to try it, and I think that you'll never become a great coach if you don't try new things and take strong stances. I really appreciate the fact that he thinks out of the box while he could simply stay on the sidelines with his hands in his pockets, if you know what I mean, or build a 27-year career without doing anything other than the obvious things, if you know what I mean again. But Mazzulla wasn't the only Celtic member that was criticized in this playoff series, because some people criticized Jayson Tatum for being out in Game 7, but we should consider how quickly he came back from his Achilles injury and how his calf wasn't particularly healthy before the tip-off. A lot of the Achilles injuries came after pre-existing calf conditions, such as the KD injury when he played for the Warriors, Tyrese Haliburton's injury, and even Jayson Tatum when he teared his Achilles. He had a pre-existing calf condition. So I think that not playing was the correct decision, and I think that having Tatum back healthy in the next season is what matters the most for the Boston Celtics. While talking about Philadelphia, I won't waste any time mentioning how players like Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Joel Embiid were good for the team. I won't talk about the fact that Paul George was efficient on both ends. These are things that you have certainly heard elsewhere, but I'll mention how Nick Nurse turned the series around tactically by changing his defensive philosophy throughout the games. In the first games of this series, he utilized his usual pick-and-roll coverage with the men in the corners that step a little bit towards the rollman, so closing the spaces and shrinking the floor a little bit, knowing that they might concede an open three with this coverage, but their goal was to protect the paint and take the ball out of the ball handler's hands. So Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown had to find the open man to have an open shot, but you know, the Boston Celtics have great shooters and great role players such as Sam Hauser, Baylor Shireman, Peyton Pritchard. So this tactical move didn't work particularly well, but at one point of the series, helped by the return of Joel Embiid, Nick Nurse decided to use a less aggressive coverage in pick and rolls, with Joel Embiid dropping deep and protecting the paint, daring the Boston Celtics ball handlers to shoot off the dribble and not spot up shots. This, together with forcing Jaylen Brown to his left hand, which is something that every coach that has faced the Celtics has always done throughout Brown's recent career, and that is something that they will always do if Jaylen Brown doesn't fix this problem, were great moves that completely turned the series around and lowered the Celtics' efficiency in this series. So that's how the 76ers advanced to the second round to face the New York Knicks, while the Celtics have somehow become both the most positive and the most negative surprise of the season, because they were supposed to retool in this season. This was probably a transition year in their plans, but they succeeded in the regular season. But once the expectations were really high, they kind of let their fans down and went out in the first round. And with that said, that was all for today. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.